Silence, in its purest form, is merely the absence of sound, yet its perceived quality shifts dramatically based on context, akin to how a vacuum can be both life-saving in space and utterly destructive on a planet. Consider the silence shared between two close friends, a moment where words are unnecessary and presence alone is sufficient. It often feels like a warm blanket, a testament to mutual understanding. This isn't just about shared history, but an implicit agreement, a non-verbal contract that acknowledges comfort without requiring constant verbal affirmation, much like how a well-oiled machine runs smoothly without constant adjustments. Conversely, the same duration of silence with a stranger in a waiting room can feel like an eternity, each second amplifying a subtle discomfort, a social vacuum demanding to be filled. This distinction isn't arbitrary. It's rooted in our primal need for social connection and the sophisticated mechanisms we've developed to navigate interpersonal dynamics, often without explicit instruction. It's almost as if our brains are constantly running a background check on the social environment, assessing threat levels and potential for connection, and silence either clears the checks or flags them for immediate attention. One primary differentiator lies in predictability and the unspoken social contracts that govern interactions. In comfortable silences, there's an inherent understanding that the silence is temporary or purposeful, like a pause for reflection during a deep conversation, much like a well-choreographed dance where a pause isn't a mistake but a deliberate movement. We anticipate its end, or we understand its function, and this anticipation reduces anxiety, allowing us to relax into the moment, almost as if our internal clock has been pre-programmed for this specific duration. Awkward silences, however, often arise from a breakdown in this predictability, a moment where the expected flow of conversation abruptly ceases, leaving a void. It's akin to a musical piece where a beat is suddenly missed, throwing the entire rhythm off kilter, creating a jarring, dissonant effect that makes listeners uneasy. This unexpected cessation triggers a frantic internal scramble to identify the cause and, more importantly, to find a resolution, leading to a heightened state of self-consciousness and a desperate search for a topic, any topic, to fill the void. This isn't just about what is being said or not said, but about the implicit rules of engagement that have been violated, creating a dissonance in our social expectations. Our ability to distinguish between comfortable and awkward silences is deeply intertwined with our theory of mind, our capacity to attribute mental states, beliefs, and intentions to others. In comfortable silences, we implicitly assume that the other person's internal state aligns with our own. Perhaps they are also contemplating or simply enjoying the quiet, much like two parallel train tracks running smoothly alongside each other, sharing the same journey. There's a perceived shared reality, a mutual understanding that eliminates the need for constant verbal confirmation, creating a sense of psychological safety. However, during an awkward silence, our theory of mind goes into overdrive, attempting to decipher the other person's thoughts and feelings, often with a sense of apprehension. We might wonder if they are bored, judging us, or waiting for us to speak, turning the silence into a battlefield of unspoken anxieties, much like a complex, multi-layered puzzle where pieces don't quite fit together, leading to frustration. This internal dialogue, fueled by uncertainty and a lack of shared context, transforms the neutral absence of sound into a highly charged, uncomfortable experience. The discomfort isn't from the silence itself, but from the perceived gap in understanding, a void in our shared mental model of the interaction, a fundamental misstep in our mental coordination. Beyond individual psychology, power dynamics and social hierarchies play a significant, often overlooked role in shaping how silence is perceived. In interactions with a perceived superior, silence can feel particularly daunting, as there's an unspoken pressure to perform or to elicit approval, similar to a student waiting for a professor's critique, every second amplified by the power imbalance. The subordinate might interpret the superior's silence as a sign of disapproval or disinterest, fueling anxiety and a desperate need to fill the void, creating a one-sided pressure cooker. Conversely, a superior might use silence as a deliberate tactic, a means of asserting dominance or encouraging the other party to reveal more information, much like a poker player strategically holding their cards, forcing the opponent to make the next move. This manipulation of silence transforms it from a neutral state into a tool for control, adding layers of complexity to its interpretation. This dynamic is often observable in interrogations or high-stakes negotiations, where silence becomes a weapon, not an absence, subtly shaping the outcome without a single word being spoken. The perceived comfort or awkwardness isn't just about individual feelings, but about the intricate dance of social influence and control, making silence a loaded element. Finally, the interpretation of silence is heavily modulated by cultural norms, revealing that its meaning is far from universal. In some cultures, particularly in East Asia, silence is often valued as a sign of wisdom, respect, or thoughtfulness, a space for contemplation rather than an empty void to be filled, much like a perfectly raked Zen garden where emptiness holds profound meaning. Extended pauses in conversation are not only acceptable but expected, reflecting a preference for careful consideration over impulsive speech, showcasing a deep respect for unspoken communication. Conversely, in many Western cultures, particularly in North America, prolonged silence can be perceived as uncomfortable, signifying awkwardness, disagreement, or a lack of engagement, a conversational glitch demanding immediate repair. This cultural discrepancy highlights how deeply ingrained our social expectations are and how profoundly they shape our emotional responses to the absence of sound, almost as if different cultures are operating on entirely different operating systems for social interaction. What is a comfortable pause in one setting can be an unbearable vacuum in another, underscoring the subjective and learned nature of silence's emotional weight. It's not just a blank space, but a canvas upon which cultural values are projected, determining whether it becomes a masterpiece of connection or a jarring void of misunderstanding.